Hi there, and welcome back to Out There, a Cryptid podcast. I'm your host, Josh. On the 13th of each month, I come out with a new episode focused on a cryptid that I find super fascinating and weird. And if you still don't know what a cryptid is, it is defined as an animal that has been claimed to exist but never proven to exist. Now, cryptids don't have to be supernatural or mythical beings, although many of them are. Some cryptids have actually become documented animals. Make sure you go and follow the podcast on Instagram, at Out There Cryptids, and check out the posts I make for each episode and maybe send some suggestions you'd like to hear. Now, I know we've been a little crazy here at Out There, but now we are back on schedule. So buckle up because we've got a crazy rest of the year planned. And then we've even started planning 2025. And let me tell you, there's some major cryptids in there. Anyway, let's get to today's story. Today, we are unraveling the story behind one of the most famous pieces of footage in cryptozoology. A short video that reportedly shows a Bigfoot in the wild. But what really happened on that day? Who were Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin? And what is the legacy of this famous film? We are talking about the Patterson-Gimlin film. Let's dive in. The dense forests of Northern California are full of mysteries and creatures, but in 1967, something was caught on film that would shake the cryptozoology world. A short yet captivating film that reportedly shows a living, breathing Bigfoot. Now, before we get into the video, we need to set the scene. Before Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin embarked on their famous expedition in 1967, the legend of Bigfoot had already captured public interest through various early sightings and cryptozoological efforts. The modern Bigfoot phenomenon can be traced back to 1958, when Jerry Crew, a construction worker, discovered large mysterious footprints near Bluff Creek, California. This incident led to the coining of the term Bigfoot by the Humboldt Times and ignited widespread interest and speculation. This only confirmed Native American legends that had included stories of large hairy bipedal creatures living in the forests of the Pacific Northwest, often referred to by names such as Sasquatch. These tales were part of the cultural lore of many tribes, adding a rich historical backdrop to the modern-day search for Bigfoot. And in the early 20th century, there were also several notable sightings and footprint discoveries, which further fueled the mystery. For instance, in 1924, a group of miners claimed to have been attacked by Ape Man near Mount St. Helens in Washington, an event that became known as the Ape Canyon Incident. These early encounters and reports laid the groundwork for a growing interest in the existence of an undiscovered primate in North America, paving the way for Patterson and Gimlin's quest to capture concrete evidence. Their film, shot in the heart of an area already famous for Bigfoot sightings, was a continuation of this long-standing fascination and search for the elusive creature. So, by the early 1960s, Bigfoot had become a subject of fascination, spawning various books, articles, and even television segments. Roger Patterson himself had been captivated by the Bigfoot legend and published a book on the subject in 1966, hence why Patterson and Bob Gimlin set out on their expedition in 1967. They were contributing to a growing field of amateur cryptozoology enthusiasts and a public already intrigued by the possibilities of an undiscovered primate living in the remote wilderness of North America. However, this photoage is what propelled the creature into a global phenomenon and cemented its place in popular culture. The key players here are Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin. Patterson was an avid rodeo rider, author, and amateur filmmaker with a deep interest in the Bigfoot phenomenon. He had previously published a book titled Do Abominable Snowmen of America Really Exist?, which was illustrated with sketches and accounts of Bigfoot sightings. Gimlin, on the other hand, was Patterson's friend and fellow outdoorsman. Gimlin was a cowboy, a horse trainer, and someone with extensive knowledge of the wilderness. His particular skills and calm demeanor complemented Patterson's enthusiasm and curiosity. This would come in handy because little did they know the pair was about to witness something absolutely incredible, and even catch it on camera. October 20th, 1967. The pair were on an expedition in Bluff Creek, Northern California, in an area known for Bigfoot sightings. They were riding horses and equipped with a 16mm Kine Kodak K100 camera, hoping to gather evidence of the elusive creature. Around 1:30 p.m., they were following a creek bed when their horses suddenly reared up. Their horse's demeanor completely changed. Patterson's horse even fell over from fright. That's when they saw it. A large, hairy, bipedal creature walking along the sandbar opposite the creek. Patterson managed to grab his camera from the saddlebag and started filming. The resulting footage lasts just under a minute, showing what appears to be a tall, ape-like figure, covered in dark hair, striding away from the camera. Patterson and Gimlin estimated the creature to be about 7 feet tall, with an estimated weight of around 700 pounds. The film itself is perhaps the most famous piece of cryptozoological evidence ever. In the footage, the creature, often referred to as Patty, walks briskly along the creek bed, occasionally turning its head to look back at Patterson and Gimlin. After they spotted the creature, Gimlin hopped back on his horse and followed it from a safe distance. Patterson, feeling a bit exposed without a rifle and worried about Patty's mate coming around, called Gimlin back after just a couple of minutes. Meanwhile, they had to chase down Patterson's runaway horse before he could get his camera ready again. Once they got everything under control, Patterson grabbed his second roll of film and captured the creature's footprints. Then they tracked the creature for around 1 mile to 3 miles until they lost it in the thick bushes. They then trekked back to their camp, grabbed some plaster, and returned to make casts of the creature's footprints. The tracks were about 14 inches long and 6 inches wide. Patterson wasted no time in getting the film developed. Initially, he was convinced that he had solid evidence of Bigfoot's existence and was hopeful that scientists would acknowledge it. However, he was disappointed to find out that only a handful of scientists were open to examining the film. When the film was first shown publicly, it captured the imagination of the public and media alike. The footage was initially screened in local theaters and at press conferences, quickly garnering widespread attention. Newspapers and television programs covered the story extensively, with headlines proclaiming the discovery of Bigfoot, and debates raging over the film's authenticity began. Both Patterson and Gimlin's narratives have remained remarkably consistent over the decades. Despite the intense scrutiny and skepticism they faced, they both have stood by the authenticity of their film. Despite accusations of hoaxing and the controversy surrounding the film, for the pair, the film's release brought both fame and scrutiny. Patterson was quoted saying, "There was no doubt in my mind that I was looking at a real creature. The way it moved, the muscles underneath the skin, it was all too real to be a man in a costume." He spent the remaining years of his life promoting the film and defending its authenticity. He continued to lecture and participate in discussions until his death in 1972. Bob Gimlin, however, was initially more reserved in his comments. Now, Gimlin was known for his practical and straightforward demeanor. Gimlin's account was identical to Patterson's description of the encounter. He recounted how they were following a creek bed when they spotted the creature, and he described his role in covering Patterson with a rifle, in case the situation turned dangerous. Gimlin has consistently stated that he did not believe the creature was a man in a costume. He said, "I saw the creature walk across the creek and into the trees. I knew it wasn't a man in a suit. The movement was too natural, too fluid." He believed it would be difficult for a human to replicate the movement he saw, especially in the rough terrain they were navigating. Over the years, Gimlin has maintained his stance that what they filmed that day was an authentic encounter with an unknown creature. The scientific community was divided in its response. Some researchers and experts took the footage seriously, calling for further investigation and analysis. Notable primatologist Dr. Grover Krantz supported the film's authenticity, citing the creature's anatomical features and movement as compelling evidence. Dr. Krantz said the anatomy of the creature in the film is entirely consistent with that of a large unknown primate. The muscle movement and the limb proportions were unlike anything a human could replicate in a costume. He argued that the film showed muscle movement and proportions that would be exceedingly difficult to fake. However, on the other hand, many scientists and skeptics dismissed the film as a hoax. They pointed to the lack of physical evidence, such as hair samples or skeletal remains, and criticized the methodological rigor of the analysis supporting the film. Despite numerous attempts to debunk the footage, the first theory was that it was just a very good costume. Early on, John Chambers, an Oscar-winning makeup artist famous for his work on Planet of the Apes, was rumored to have created the Bigfoot suit. However, Chambers denied any involvement, and those who knew him insisted he would not have kept such a secret. In popular publication, he stated, "I didn't make the suit, and frankly, I don't think anyone could have made a suit that convincing with the technology available at the time." Then, in 2002, costume maker Philip Morris claimed to have sold an ape suit to Patterson, which he believed was used in the film. Despite Morris's detailed account, he did not provide concrete evidence, and the suit he described did not match the detailed muscle movements seen in the footage. So this theory was quickly thrown out. But then, in 2004, a man named Bob Hieronymus claimed to have been the man in the suit. He provided some details about the film, but had no conclusive proof, and some details were off. So it was also believed to be false. It's important to emphasize the technology limitations of the 1960s. Special effects and costume designs were relatively minimal compared to today. Experts have pointed out that creating a suit with such realistic muscle movement and anatomical detail would have been nearly impossible with the materials and techniques available at the time, hence why no one really took Hieronymus's word to be truthful. But let's get back to the footage itself. Now, Patterson was the driving force behind the expedition that led to the filming of the creature. Patterson was passionate about Bigfoot and had been long fascinated by the legend. After publishing his book on the subject in 1966, he became determined to find concrete evidence of Bigfoot's existence. Then in interviews following the release of the film, Patterson maintained that the footage was genuine. He described the events of October 20th, 1967 with a consistent narrative emphasizing the surprise and excitement he felt upon encountering the creature. Patterson often recounted how he fumbled to get his camera ready after his horse reared up in fright. He expressed confidence in the authenticity of the film, pointing to the details and movement of the creature as evidence that it could not be a man in a suit. Of course, I have put the footage on Instagram, or you can go to Google and search for it yourself, but I think it'll be super helpful to go through frame by frame and talk about the key moments. The film consists of approximately 954 frames, with each frame providing a tiny snapshot of the creature's movement. So, buckle up. Frames 1 through 72. The initial sighting. In the first few frames, we see Patterson's camera shakily capturing the scene. The initial sighting causes some chaos as Patterson steadies himself. This is where we catch the first glimpse of the creature, moving away from Patterson and Gimlin. The figure is blurry due to the initial camera shake and Patterson trying to focus on the moving subject. Frames 73 to 84, the first clear view. By frame 73, Patterson was steadied with the camera, enough to get a clearer shot. The creature, often referred to as Patty, is now fully visible. Patty is seen walking away from the camera along the creek bed, showing a bipedal upright posture. The back muscles and the motion of the arms swinging are noticeable even at this early stage. Frames 85 to 100, the turn and look. In these frames, Patty turns her head towards the camera. This moment is iconic, capturing a clear view of the face and adding to the footage's authenticity. The turn appears smooth and natural, with visible movement in the shoulders and torso. The creature's expression is hard to discern, but it appears to glance back, as if acknowledging the presence of the cameraman. Frames 101 to 200, continued movement. Patty continues to walk, maintaining a steady pace. Observers note the creature's consistent gait, with long strides and arm swings. Here, the muscle movement under the fur becomes more apparent, particularly in the legs and back. The creature's stride is unbroken, adding to the argument that this could not be a human in a cumbersome suit. Frames 201 to 300 focus on the feet. In these frames, the camera gets a clearer view of Patty's feet. Analysts have pointed out the detailed footprints left in the sand, which match the size and shape described in numerous Bigfoot sightings. The soles of the feet appear large and flat, with each step pressing deeply into the ground, suggesting a significant weight. Frames 301 to 400, the side profile. The side profile of Patty is one of the most discussed segments. The creature's broad shoulders, narrow waist, and arm length are prominently featured. Skeptics and believers alike have examined this profile to determine if it could be a man in a suit. The proportion and muscle definition observed in these frames often lead experts to argue against the suit hypothesis. Frames 401 to 500, muscle definition. As Patty walks, the movement of individual muscles under the fur can be seen, particularly in the thighs and upper back. This level of detail would be difficult to replicate with the costume technology available in 1960. Supporters of the film's authenticity often cite these frames as crucial evidence. Frames 501 to 600, head and shoulders. Here, the head and shoulders are more prominently in view. The creature's head appears to sit directly on its shoulders, with little to no visible neck, a feature consistent with reported Bigfoot sightings. The fur around the head and neck flows naturally, without the abrupt edges that might be expected from a mask or a helmet. Frames 601 to 700, the hand swing. The hand and finger movements in these frames are another point of interest. The creature's hands open and close naturally as it swings its arms, showing dexterity and muscle control that would be difficult to fake. The fingers appeared long and proportional to the hand, another detail that costume experts find challenging to reproduce convincingly. Frames 701 to 800, distance and clarity. As Patty moves further away, the clarity decreases slightly, but the overall gait and movement remain consistent. The distance provides a better perspective of the creature's size relative to the surrounding environment, reinforcing the estimates of the height being around 7 feet. Frames 801 to 900, the departure. The final frames show Patty continuing her steady walk into the forest. The creature moves with purpose, maintaining a consistent speed and fluidity in its motion. By frame 900, Patty is partially obscured by trees and foliage, eventually disappearing from view. Frames 901 to 954, end of the encounter. The last few frames capture the landscape as the camera pans slightly, possibly to follow Patty's departure. The film ends with a few shaky movements, likely as Patterson and Gimlin react to what they've just witnessed. Several aspects of the footage have been analyzed in great detail. Experts have noted the fluid, non-human gait of the creature, with its arms swinging in a manner inconsistent with a human in a costume. The visible muscle movement under the fur has been cited by some as evidence that it could not be simple suit. Analysis has also shown that the proportions of the creature do not match those of a human, particularly in the limb length and shoulder width. The creature's stride and the way its knees bend suggest a unique locomotion that is drastically different from humans. Additionally, the fur appears to move naturally, adhering closely to the body and showing variations in texture and length, which would be difficult to replicate with the costume technology available at that time. The creature's facial features and expression during the brief movement it turns to look at the camera is one of the most pivotal moments of the film. The facial structure, including a pronounced brow ridge and a wide, flat nose, does not match typical human features. The eyes seem deeply set and the mouth appears to move subtly, indicating possible musculature and skin flexibility. It also should be noted that in the video, experts have claimed to see breasts on the creature, believing it is a female, hence Patty. Biomechanical experts have also analyzed the film, noting that the creature's center of gravity and overall balance appear consistent with a non-human primate rather than a human. The ratio of the torso to limb length and the distinctive bend at the elbows are more akin to that of great apes, further complicating the idea of a person in a suit. Some proponents have used computer modeling and digital enhancements to stabilize and clarify the footage, further emphasizing the natural motion of the muscles beneath the fur. Dr. Jeff Meldrum, a professor of anatomy and anthropology at Idaho State University, reviewed the footage using this method and said digital stabilization has revolutionized our ability to study the Patterson-Gimlin film in detail, revealing subtleties of the creature's movement that were previously obscured. And Dr. John Binder-Nagel, wildlife biologist and cryptozoologist, chimed in with, by stabilizing the footage, we can analyze each frame more accurately, allowing for a comprehensive examination of the creature's biomechanics. Skeptics, however, argue that the film's clarity is insufficient to draw definitive conclusions, and that advanced special effect techniques, even in the 1960s, could potentially achieve such a result with significant effort and resources. Ultimately, while the Patterson-Gimlin film continues to be a focal point for both believers and skeptics, these detailed analyses underscore the complexity and the mystery of the footage. Each frame of the film continues to be a source of fascination, inviting ongoing investigations and debate within the fields of cryptozoology, anthropology, and visual effects. Since its release, the Patterson-Gimlin film has sparked endless debates and studies. Now, let's break down some of the key points in this ongoing controversy. Culturally, the Patterson-Gimlin film had a profound impact. It cemented Bigfoot's place in popular culture, leading to an explosion of interest in cryptozoology. The film inspired numerous books, documentaries, and television shows dedicated to the search for Bigfoot. It also spawned a dedicated community of researchers and enthusiasts who have spent decades exploring remote areas in search of the creature. Not only that, it also had a profound impact on the field of Bigfoot research. It inspired a generation of researchers and enthusiasts to pursue the study of cryptozoology. Organizations dedicated to the search for Bigfoot, such as the Bigfoot Field Research Organization, owe part of their origins to the curiosity and passion ignited by the film. The film's influence extended beyond the realm of cryptozoology, impacting popular media as well. Bigfoot became a fixture in movies, television shows, advertisements, often portrayed as a mysterious and elusive creature. The image of Bigfoot walking through the forest, as captured in the Patterson-Gimlin film, became an iconic symbol, recognizable even to those unfamiliar with the broader lore. As someone who's really into the world of cryptozoology and the unexplained, I find the Patterson-Gimlin film absolutely fascinating. Every time I watch it, I can't help but be mesmerized by the creature they captured on the film back in 1967. The way it moves with such a natural fluid gait and those swinging arms just don't look like something a person in a costume could pull off. It's one of those images that sticks in your head forever. What really gets me is that this was filmed in the 60s. Special effects and costumes back then were nowhere near what we have today, yet the creature in the film shows visible muscle movement. The fur looks realistic and the proportions of the limbs seem so natural. It's hard to believe they could have faked the level of detail with the technology available at the time. Whenever I hear about the attempts to debunk the film, I keep coming back to the same thought. It just looks too real to be fake. The Patterson-Gimlin film captures something that feels so genuine and mysterious. It's the sense of the unknown that keeps me hooked. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, you've got to admit there's something captivating about these few seconds of grainy footage. After the film was released, it didn't just capture the attention of a niche group of Bigfoot enthusiasts. It became a sensation. The media was all over it, and the public couldn't get enough. Bigfoot became a household name. And despite numerous attempts to debunk the footage, no one has conclusively proven it to be a hoax. From claims of costume making to supposed confessions, each attempt falls short when scrutinized. The film's details, like muscle movement and anatomical proportions, seem too advanced for the time, even with Hollywood's best special effects. The Patterson-Gimlin film remains one of the most compelling pieces of evidence for the existence of an undiscovered primate in North America. Whether you believe it or not, there's no denying its impact on the world of cryptozoology and pop culture. So, what do you think? Is Bigfoot really out there? We are on Instagram at OutThereCryptids, so make sure to follow us and tell us all of your thoughts on the cryptids we cover and what you'd like to hear next. It would mean a lot to us if you could go rate us on Spotify or go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. It's a great way for others to find the podcast and enjoy, just like you. On the 13th, we will be diving into the terrifying legend of a creature with the wingspan of an owl and a human face, with a haunting cry that chills the soul. We are talking about La Lechuza. See you next time. This episode was written and hosted by me, Josh, with logo designed by Jason Zykes and theme music from purpleplanet.com.